Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Candace and this is Healthy Living with Candace. I am here with Wyatt for Larimer, and I'm going to let him introduce himself and start talking about our part two of voting.
Hi, everyone. It's nice to see you again. My name is Wyatt Schwendeman-Curtis, and I'm running for Larimer County's Clerk and Recorder, which is the head elections job, but it's also the motor vehicle licensing department and then the recording department. So that would deal with like marriage licensing and passports.
Alrighty,
Yeah.
so let's just delve in. We are going to do part two today. Learn a little bit more about voting. It's coming up around the corner. Get some dates kind of
Yeah.
solidified and make sure that everyone leaves this video with understanding the importance of choosing to utilize your voice.
Yeah. So, election is 6 weeks out. That was officially yesterday. We are 42, 41 days away from the election. It is right around the corner, and there's not a lot of time left. Ballots will be going out fairly soon. Ballots go out on October 11th, and that's when you'll start receiving your ballots in the mail. And then overseas and military ballots already went out. So there are people actually already voting from Colorado. If they have residency in the state, they can vote if they're overseas or military. Those went out last Friday. And then you are also able to start viewing your ballot on the Secretary of State's website. So if you want to go to see how long your ballot is, it's a very long ballot. So my ballot, when I looked it up, was 38 questions. It is the longest ballot in Colorado's history, and it is going to vary depending on where you live on how long your ballot is. So for people in Loveland, they're actually seeing their questions be about 42 questions, where mine's slightly less. So I live in Wellington, which is just north of the county. Where Loveland is more south of the county. So I would recommend making a plan and making sure you're going to the Secretary of State's website. And we'll drop the link in this video so that way you can click on that. But definitely make sure you're making a plan to vote and do your research. There's a lot of amendments and propositions on the ballot that can make big differences for our state, including election measures.
That's awesome. So tell us some more about voting and the importance and what we're looking towards and what we can do.
Yeah, so it's very important to vote. I know when it comes to the presidential level, people don't feel like their vote matters or that their vote makes a difference, but it does. And I would say especially at the local level. In Colorado, we have seen more close elections in recent history than in the past. So, for example, 2 years ago, I ran for mayor of Wellington, and I lost my election by 180 votes. It is a plurality, right? So it is literally whoever has the most votes wins. I know at the presidential level, you're looking at the Electoral College, but those votes still matter no matter which side you're on, because the more you have, the more percentages it helps the president. But when you're looking at local level, it's a straight, 50 plus one. So 50% plus one vote is how you determine that you won. We've seen that in Loveland. Loveland voted for a city councilor 4 years ago, or maybe it was a couple years ago, that only won by one vote. Where I live in Wellington, we passed marijuana sales in our town only by one vote. So local elections matter, and it's important that you educate yourself on issues that are on the ballot coming up.
Perfect. So is there anything else that you would like to say?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I am going to talk about this lovely blue book that everyone just received at their house. Everyone should have this in their hand. If you do not have it in your hand, or if you have not seen it arrive at your house, please make sure you follow up either with I think you have to follow up with the Secretary of State's office because this comes from the state, just to make sure that you get your information. But it's a pretty thick booklet this year. And presidential years, they tend to be a pretty big, they tend to be bigger than off cycles. But there are a few measures that I would highly recommend that you look over and you make your decision. There's 4 specifically that I want to talk about. 2 are social issues, and then 2 are going to be elections that are based off of our elections going to fundamentally change in our state. So the first 2 that I want to talk about is Amendment J, which is the freedom to marry amendment. And what this is going to do in Colorado's state constitution, it says marriage is between one man and one woman. And this was something that was passed back in the 1990s by the voters and has since Obergefell changed, which was a court case from the Supreme Court back in the 2015 is when they overturned and allowed same-sex marriage nationwide. So if the Supreme Court decides to take up same-sex marriage like they did with abortion rights, and overturn that, we would, in our state, revert back to our Constitution. And our Constitution says marriage is between one man and one woman. So that's an issue for someone like me who is in a same-sex marriage. So we have to make sure we are protecting everyone's rights in this state. And I would highly recommend that you do your research and that you vote for this amendment. It's yet again Amendment J, which is freedom to marry. So that way we can strip that language out of the Constitution, and then that will ensure that same-sex marriage is safe in Colorado if the Supreme Court happens to overturn it down the road. Another amendment is Amendment 79, which is going to be codifying abortion rights into our Constitution. So just make sure that you are doing your research on this. We have, unfortunately, the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade 2 years ago now, I think is when it was. And it's important, right? A women's right to choose is huge, and we need to make sure we're standing up for women, and women have a voice. And we are seeing measures across the country in red states and blue states where we are voting for abortion rights or women's right to choose. So, we've seen horror stories these last couple of weeks of the effects that us overturning Roe versus Wade have had on states and women and people that have lost their lives. So this is an important one in Colorado that we definitely need to pass, and I am hopeful that it will pass. The last 2 measures that I want to mention is going to be ranked choice voting is Proposition 131, and that is going to be changing the way that we do elections in our state. So we would go to a jungle primary, and then from that primary, the top 4 vote getters would go into the general election, and then we would do ranked choice voting off those top 4 that move from the primary to the general. I am not taking a position on this. I think this is something that is up to the voters. I am usually pro ranked choice voting, but I do have concerns about the way that this measure is written. But if the will of the voters is to change and pass this law, it is something as a clerk that I will make sure that I follow. And we are seeing this in municipalities already. So for example, Fort Collins will be doing their first ranked choice voting election in 2025 on the municipal races. So it's not something that's new to our state, but it's something that will take a lot of work to ensure that it is done correctly and that we aren't causing any issues with voter rights. So this is something I want to be cautious on. And whatever the voters decide, I feel like the clerks and the state legislature will ensure that we are making sure that every vote matters and every vote counts. And then lastly is going to be Amendment K. Amendment K is just changing election dates. It's not the date of the election, it's deadlines of the election. So that would be, for example, if you are doing a citizens initiative in our Constitution, or for the state ballot, this would change the deadline and move it up, I think, by a week. But it changes the dates of deadlines, so that way it makes it easier for clerks' offices to get materials printed and printed correctly, and that there's no mistakes before we send it to the voters. So it just gives us more time, and it's just a little bit more time. It's not like we're asking for too much time, but it is a measure that I definitely support and that the Clerks Association supports. So if you have any questions, I recommend you reach out to me at my website at wyattforlarimer.com, or just do your research. There's really good pros and cons in the Blue Book that everyone has in their hands, and just do your research on who is supporting these measures or how you truly feel about them. And if you have concerns or questions, reach out to your local clerk's office or reach out to candidates. Like I said, you can reach out to me at wyattforlarimer.com.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for providing this information. Again, I will provide links. I will provide contact information. You can drop your comments below if you would like, and I will make sure that we try to get all our questions answered. And I know that Wyatt will do everything in his power to make sure that everyone's informed. At the end of the day, I think we're on the same team and just want people to be informed and want people to use their voice this year. It's really big on the docket of things to do. I want to thank you again for taking time out to educate our population. Don't forget to subscribe below, and bye-bye for now.
Bye. Thank you.